telling you this is a monopoly. When you look at this graph, you may recall that it looks just like a monopolistic competitor in the short run. That is, they're going to be making profits. Monopolistic competition, remember, has many sellers, each of them practicing some product differentiation. That's not what we're doing. It'll look like the same graph. But I'm telling you, this is a monopoly. You have to be told that to know. So here we have a monopoly, and what do we know about this monopoly? We know that it has the normal cost behaviors. The average total cost curve has a U shape. You have economies of scale, and then diseconomies of scale. You have a minimum point somewhere down here at the bottom of the average total cost curve. You have the marginal cost curve associated with their cost behaviors. You have their demand curve and its associated marginal revenue curve. Remember, the marginal revenue curve comes out halfway as far as the demand curve. We're using straight line curves here. So how does this monopoly operate? It operates first with the basic profit maximizing rule. Pick that output where marginal cost equal marginal revenue, where the marginal cost of the last unit produced exactly equals its marginal revenue that it generates. In my previous videos, you may have seen we call that point alpha. Where does marginal cost equal marginal revenue? On this graph, the two curves intersect here, and that we refer to as point alpha. That tells the firm the optimum quantity to produce. Alpha tells us quantity. So from alpha, we read down, we say this is the quantity the firm should produce, and in order to produce and sell that amount, what price do they need to charge? Well, they need to look at the price line, which we normally call the demand curve. And we read up from this quantity to the demand curve and over. And that's the price they should be charging to maximize their profit. And indeed, in this case, they are profitable because their price is higher than the average cost of production at this level of output. We compare the price to the average total cost for any given level of output to see if we have a profit, or if the price were below average cost, we'd have a loss. But here's the monopolist. He's got no competition. And in this first case, he's unregulated. He's free to set any price he wants. This would be the theoretical price he would set, and he would earn profits in the amount of this rectangle, the difference between price and average cost times the number of units produced. He would be a profitable monopolist. Now, this would be true in the short run, and because he has no competition by definition, this will also be his optimal output in the long run. This is his long run equilibrium. That he can, absent some change, he can earn profits into the indefinite future because he is, again by definition, the only seller in the market. Now, might that change? Yeah, that might change, and that would change the graph. But we're saying, absent any other changes, the monopolist can be profitable in the long run as well as the short run. Now, let's take the second variation of this. What if this is a natural cost behaviors monopoly, which is now regulated by the government? For whatever reason, the government says that the good or service you're producing has such an impact on society that we're going to regulate you and ensure that you don't take advantage of those customers or in some way abuse the market. Okay? We see regulated monopolies all the time in terms of electric companies, gas companies, utilities generally. Okay? At one time, AT&T was regulated for long distance service. Now, what's the government going to tell this company to do? What price are they going to command that this company charge? That's their critical decision. Now, as a government regulatory agency, presumably your objective is to maximize the amount of this product or service that consumers can get. That's why you gave this company a monopoly, because you want them to maximize their service to the community. But they've got to stay in business. So the question for the government is, what is the lowest price we can make this company charge? The lowest price possible, so as many people as possible can afford it, consistent with the company staying in business. We call that the full cost price. It is a price that includes all the firm's explicit costs as well as its implicit costs, to include earning a normal, reasonable profit for the risk involved in that kind of industry. So they've got to make enough money to pay their costs and enough profit to stay in business. Okay? What's the lowest price you can make them charge? It would be a price that makes the firm operate at break even. Break even means covering all of your costs, implicit and explicit, in terms of economics. That point occurs here. At this point, at this price, we call that price number 2. The company is breaking even because they'll be producing this quantity times this price, so that will be their total revenue, and it will be their total cost. From this quantity up to the cost curve and over would be their total cost for that operation, a break-even point. This then, the intersection of average total cost and the demand curve, is the full cost price, or indicates to us the full cost price. And notice, instead of the company charging a high price with relatively few sales to maximize profit, because it's regulated, it's forced to charge a lower price to be able to serve more customers and still make a reasonable, normal return or profit to stay in business. So this would be the pricing option chosen by government, theoretically, or at least as close to that as they think they could get. Now there's one other price option in here that for economists is important to consider. We call it the most efficient price in terms of allocative efficiency. For the economist, what price should the company charge in order to become allocatively efficient, to allocate its resources into the optimal level of production for society? And our rule for that, you may have seen it before, for this particular criteria, we say set the price equal to the marginal cost. So this is kind of a theoretical option up here. Let's show it very quick. That would be up here, where marginal cost crosses the demand curve. This would be the allocatively efficient price that would result in a price up here at price level 3. Notice the firm would be making an economic profit in this case, but it would satisfy the conditions in economics of the best use of its resources, the most allocatively efficient use of its resources. All right? Now this was the monopolist with its normal cost behavior. We had 3 pricing options: profit maximization, full cost price, as would be enforced by a governmental regulatory body if it were regulated, and then the economist ideal, the marginal cost price. Let's look at this same explanation, and I know it's messy. Let's look at the same explanation about a monopoly whose costs are constantly decreasing, what we called a natural monopoly a moment ago. All right? Bear with me.